Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. In today's podcast, we're going to be talking about yet another artificial intelligence solution from Deloitte. Deloitte is continuing their AI dominance. So last week, Deloitte issued a press release regarding a public services practice announcement for Deloitte Artificial Intelligence Institute for Government. They are creating this institute for government solutions, and the Artificial Institute leaders outlined a set of commitments and actions to advance applied AI in the public sector by building a cross-sector community for research and shared expertise, and mentoring and growing the talent of the future. Somebody at Deloitte, Ed Van Buren, said the following: as evidenced in the recent National Security Commission on Artificial Intelligence report, advancing the use of artificial intelligence is a national imperative. While decisions and actions to accelerate AI innovation need to happen today, implementing AI brings ethical and technical challenges that are as complex as any we have faced in recent history. Deloitte's AI Institute for Government is focused on efforts to actively help the public sector harness and shape this movement towards blending human and machine capabilities in a way that improves citizen services, promotes economic growth and recovery, and expands human opportunity. End quote. And the press release goes on to say the Institute is a hub for innovative perspectives, collaboration, and research focused on all things AI and related technologies for government. To achieve this, the Institute will engage leaders from state, local, and federal government, industry, and academia. The community will reach beyond technologists to include disciplines in the humanities and sciences. AI is more than technology. Its adoption presents a seismic shift in the future of how work is done and how public servants, individuals, and society will work with intelligence machines and big data, says Tasha Austin, who's a principal at Deloitte also. And Tasha goes on to say, the community built through this institute is at the leading edge of how AI is applied to the work of government to improve everything from healthcare to national defense. We will address critical questions of how we build ethics and transparency into the very DNA of AI to foster trust and advance human potential rather than increase inequity. Some of the work and commitments underway for DIIG's first year are listed below. They want to build an AI community of research and shared expertise. The talent and capabilities embodied in the Institute deliver applied AI case studies that make concrete differences in public sector challenges. The Institute is a center for AI in the public sector community and fosters learning, exploration, and exchange of ideas. Early commitments include research and develop AI-powered solutions in collaboration with Deloitte's AI Exploration Lab at the Capital Factory in Austin, Texas, and the newly launched Cortex AI for Government platform. They also want to leverage industry-leading AI experts from our government and public sector practice to research AI, develop solutions, and publish insights to problems that matter to the government. They also want to support existing AI communities of practice in government through events co-sponsored with leading nonprofits and trade associations. And they also want to establish relationships with academic institutions to identify trends and conduct interdisciplinary research on applied AI for the purpose of pioneering and creating disruptive AI technologies and solutions for the public sector. So really, there's really nothing being done here as a result of this. They're just creating another institute and trademarking more things. That's what Deloitte does a lot. They see a trend and then they just trademark a whole bunch of things and develop a whole bunch of institutes. But these institutes aren't really anything new. They're just shuffling around people. So there's people in this AI lab, probably in Austin, Texas for Deloitte, that are going to have multiple responsibilities, not just on this government, but any artificial intelligence solution. They're going to have to write papers, Think of ideas of services for Deloitte, throw them against the wall, and see which ones the clients buy. In this case, it's for the government. So, as you saw here, they want to develop solutions for all pieces of the government, state, local, and federal. This is in the United States. And so they're going to be working, obviously, the defense part of the government is going to be very big and probably tracking people too and using data. I mean, there's really like endless amounts of ways that artificial intelligence could be used in the government. It's right now, it's really going to be used to look at data that the government has and how to extrapolate conclusions off of that data. They always talk about ethics, but that's just because of the politically correct environment around the world, and especially with the big four accounting firms right now. They're obsessed with equity and ethics and everything, like increase inequity. I'm not sure how AI is going to increase inequity. I'm not sure how AI is going to be racist, but that's obviously what they're suggesting here. And it's hilarious that they create this public government thing and then all of a sudden ethics and inequity somehow gets involved in that. Not sure what to think of that, other than that inequity and ethics are in everything that the big four puts out nowadays. But there's going to be a lot of collaboration. They talk about academia a lot in here, so I think they're going to be dealing a lot with public universities and maybe developing solutions for public universities. As public universities do research, maybe Deloitte can get in there and help them. But a lot of this stuff could be done with taxation. They can use AI for taxation, city level, state level, and federal level. They can use artificial intelligence in what they're already doing with governments. Deloitte is helping a lot with unemployment initiatives across the country, and they've had a lot of issues with that. They're being called into court. They're being called into legislators to answer for issues with unemployment solutions that they developed. So maybe they can use AI in there. That's the other thing that Deloitte has to be careful, because they spin up these products and they spin up these institutes so quick, and they don't really vet the services they're going to offer, and then they end up stumbling over themselves. So I think that's something they need to be careful of. They need to look less into ethics externally and more internally. They need to make sure that they have a viable solution and a viable service before they launch it. They need to make sure that they're not just looking at winning work from the government, because I think they can do that pretty easily through their connections in the government, as it says here, the public sector. But they need to figure out how they're going to make sure that they're going to help out the taxpayer, the ultimate end user of government solutions, because with their unemployment services, they haven't done a good job of that. People have not gotten checks. There's been a lot of issues with that. So they need to be careful and not just worry about winning the work, but also worry about delivering and worrying about helping the communities, because I don't really see too much of that spoken here. They're just talking about how they're going to help out the government and build government solutions, but they need to worry about how they're going to help communities more, other than just inequity. They need to talk about the end users of government solutions, or the people that pay for it, which are taxpayers. So I think that Deloitte needs to encompass that, and they need to make sure that they're doing good work for communities and not just for government bureaucracies. So that's the podcast for today. As we see, Deloitte is building a dominant AI services platform centered in Austin, but it's going to help the rest of the United States and the world. I mean, mainly right now, it's just going to help Deloitte's bottom line, but they're getting out ahead of the artificial intelligence offering. They're building a huge brand in artificial intelligence. They're releasing these press releases almost every day now. And it's because they built this artificial intelligence, and it's because they built this artificial intelligence institute a year ago, and they're really getting it up and running. So if you want to get an artificial intelligence in the big four accounting firms, Deloitte would be the firm to go with. So that's the podcast for today. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast to get future updates. Also, make sure to financially support us if you can. Even $1 helps through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes to this podcast. And if you can't help us out through that, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm going to be uploading videos on YouTube for this podcast, but it's going to have a little bit more visually stimulating things in there, and there's going to be captions. So make sure to check out those new videos. You can check this out on YouTube and let me know what you think about it. Thanks for listening.